If you are looking to buy a Maserati Ghibli, you are in luck, because today I'm going to go over the 5 things that I love and the 5 things that I hate about my very own Maserati Ghibli. Intro in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Adam Drives LA. My name is Adam, and typically I'm driving the coolest cars on LA's most iconic roads. Now, if you're new to the channel, about 6 months ago, I reviewed a Maserati Ghibli identical to this one, and I told all my subscribers that they should go out and find a used Maserati Ghibli because they are a bargain after the heavy depreciation that they have suffered from. So I put my money where my mouth is. I went out and I purchased this used Maserati Ghibli S Q4 with about 37,000 miles on it. Now, after a couple of weeks of ownership, I think this is the perfect time to tell you the 5 things that I love about this car and the 5 things that I absolutely hate about this car. Given that it's a 90-degree day here in Los Angeles, let's jump in, turn on that Italian air conditioning, and get started. Alright, let's start off with the 5 things that I absolutely dislike about my Maserati Ghibli. First and foremost is the turbo lag. Now, I've owned many turbo cars in the past, so I know what to expect, but this being a really performance-inspired Ferrari-derived engine, I mean, you would think that they've put a little bit more emphasis on the torque and kind of getting the power early on, knowing there will be turbo lag, but no, there's a ton of turbo lag. I'm going to put it here into sport mode, and I'll tell you, I'm going to floor it in exactly 3, 2, 1. Now, coupled with a pretty slow downshifting transmission, the lag just seems like it takes 2-3 seconds. You feel the buildup all the way through. It never really throws you in your seat. It doesn't feel slow. I'll tell you, once it kicks in, it's definitely there, but early on, it feels like you're not even flooring it. I really can't stand that, but I know what I got into. The second thing that I hate about my Maserati Ghibli is the awful UConnect infotainment system that is shared with the FCA group. For a 2014 system, maybe at the time it felt okay, and you could easily say like everything just doesn't age well when it comes to these touchscreens. But I've been in 20-year-old cars, Lexuses, that still have a pretty responsive touchscreen system. This one is just a laggy. Even the font and everything about it just looks really aged. I wish it didn't have this, but there's no real alternative. At the time, this is what was available, and this is how they kept the price down, by sharing parts with other FCA cars. The third thing that I absolutely hate about my Maserati Ghibli is it did not come with standard paddle shifters. Now, consider this. I have the upgraded S model. This is the 404 horsepower, 406 torque, Ferrari-derived engine. It is the performance version of an already well-performing car. And to consider that the paddle shifters were still an option even after you upgrade to an S model is really disappointing. I do have this gearbox here. It's kind of silly. It really is just up and down, plus and minus. Like, you feel like you're in an arcade. You don't really get the satisfaction of, you know, pulling these little triggers behind the steering wheel. I really enjoy that, especially with such a nice sounding exhaust. You want to enjoy that, and you just don't get that sense of satisfaction from this lame shifter down here. The fourth thing that I absolutely hate about my Maserati Ghibli, let's jump into the trunk and I'll show you what that is. So as you can see, on the key fob, I have a button. I press it twice and the trunk opens all the way up completely automatically. But to close it, all you have is this little handle with the Maserati logo, and you're supposed to pull it down. Now, there's no button, and I know, of course, you're thinking that I'm nitpicking. Here's my thought process. If you were the person who originally purchased this car for around $80,000, and you see that every car in the $40,000 to $50,000 range already has that feature, you would be more upset than I am. I guarantee it. So it is something that shows, you know, there were certain things that were done to cut the cost and make this an affordable Maserati for the everyday driver who has a little bit of extra money to spend. But you lose these little things that you just totally expect in a car like this. And the fifth and final thing that I absolutely hate about my Maserati Ghibli is the stigma attached to it. And what I mean is, when people see that you bought a Maserati Ghibli, they assume that you really wanted a exclusive or exotic car and you couldn't afford one. So Maserati kind of threw you a bone and said, here, we'll give you a Chrysler product, we'll put our logo on it and you can have it. And you went out and you leased it for like $600 a month. You didn't have to have amazing credit. So they assume that you're that person, and this really comes from the people who have not really spent a lot of time around this car or are not considering the depreciation of it. Now, this can also be a good thing. The stigma attached to it is also one of people seeing you drive it assume that it's a six-figure car. That's happened many times. When I purchased this one, nobody can believe the price, and people don't understand how badly depreciation has affected this. They just see the logo. This comes more from the group of people who don't know the car that well at all. They just know the name of it. They've heard the exotic brand Maserati. They know what they were in the past, these really upscale cars, so they assume this is that, which partially it is, and partially it does fall under the other stigma of being a Chrysler product. Now, if you agree with everything I've said so far, do me a favor, scroll down, hit the like button, and if you've not already subscribed to the channel, please do so now. I see a lot of my views coming from people who are not subscribed to the channel. You have no idea how much it greatly helps me if you just hit the subscribe button. Really easy to do. Do it now, and let's get into the 5 things that we love. Alright, now that I'm done bashing my Maserati Ghibli before it tries to get revenge on me and throw me into a wall like a Mustang would, let's get into the 5 things that I absolutely love about my Maserati Ghibli. First and foremost, the sound. Of course, I told you it is a Ferrari-derived engine. It's a 3.0 twin turbo, and my God, does it sound good when you hit it. Every shift, everything about it, I mean, the crackles when you shift, the high pitch when you downshift, I mean, everything about it is just screaming Ferrari. Now, when my friends called me and said, hey, you got the Maserati Ghibli, let me come check it out. For the first time, they said, let me come see what this thing's about. Let me see why you like it. I know they're coming in with the notion that I bought a kind of crappy exotic car, or let's call it an exotic car, and they want to see how bad it is and they want to prove a point. First thing I do is the cold start, which sounds like this. And I look at their face after the cold start, I know that their jaws drop because they just heard what really truly is a Ferrari engine. It sounds just like a Ferrari. I mean, the Alpha 4C had a similar sound. This is, again, they really know how to do the engines on this car. FCA did not go cheap on that. They went to the right source. They got the perfect sound, and this is why I'm saying I want the paddle shifters so badly in this car. Every tunnel you go into, every underpass, I mean, you want to downshift, you want to hear the crackle, and you just don't get that enjoyment out of the shifter. You want the paddle shifters, but that stock exhaust in sport mode is to die for. The second thing that I love about my Maserati Ghibli is, of course, the design of it. Now, coming from a car design background, I do have to say there is no bad angle on this car. The proportions are exactly right. They did it where they really captured the essence of a luxury car that, of course, has performance behind it. Of course, I think that front end is the best angle on the car, but like I said, there's not a bad angle. You wrap around the back, you look at the exhaust, they're just the right size. I mean, there's no bad wheel options on this car. I have to say, this is a car that anyone who even dislikes that it's a FCA product, they cannot argue that it's a beautiful car. Nobody has said it's an ugly car, and I don't think anyone can. You see them coming down the road, and it has that graphic that just grabs you. It's aggressive as hell. I love the design of this car. The third thing I absolutely love about my Maserati Ghibli is seeing that Maserati Trident logo directly in front of me, all around the car, on the seats, on the exterior, everywhere in the interior. They have this logo because it means something, and I know when I'm driving this car, looking at it in front of me the entire time I am driving, you just feel accomplished. You feel like you're in something special. Honestly, even if the interior was total trash, having that logo in front of you really reminds you that you are in something that has history, that has a name, that has brand behind it. It stands for something, and I love that I get to see it all the time. I'm lucky enough to say I get to see it every day. It's my car, but on the front and the back, I mean, everywhere you have this Trident, it really just doesn't let you forget that you're in something exciting. The fourth thing that I absolutely love about my Maserati Ghibli, and this is one that not a lot of people understand how it made the top 4 or 5 highlights that I have for this car. They'll think it's a small detail, but to me it means everything, and that is the analog clock in the center of the dash. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that means so much to me for the simple fact of the only places you really see those are in cars like Rolls Royces, or in something prestigious like in a limousine, like a town car. I remember seeing analog clocks, and it means something. And this has that beautiful Maserati blue in the background. It has, you know, the logo, the Trident, everything about it. I mean, if that clock broke and they told me it's $2,000 to fix, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go ahead and fix it. I need that clock there. I need it working. It reminds me of what I'm driving. It reminds me that I'm in something that is still considered prestigious. I love that clock. It might be my favorite single item in this car. And the fifth and final thing that I absolutely love about my Maserati Ghibli, especially that is the Q4 model, is the all-wheel drive and the handling that comes with it. It is unbelievable when you're in sport mode and you really start to get on the throttle, on the turns. That exit speed that you get from the all-wheel drive system, it really throws all the luxury into the back seat and says, we are a performance car, let's do this. I swear to you, I could not believe that for a car that weighs over 4,000 pounds, this really totally transforms into a race car. It is that Q4 all-wheel drive system. I absolutely recommend it, especially if you are getting an S model. You got all the performance as far as straight line speed. Now you want to be able to use it, and when you're going over, you know, 70-80 miles per hour, it becomes an all-out 100% rear-wheel drive, so you're not just wasting gas. That Q4 all-wheel drive system kicks in exactly when you need it. It's active, so it's constantly changing where to send the power, which wheels, which side. It's such a well-made system, and I'm shocked that Maserati was able to use it, because I'm just not used to Maseratis having an all-wheel drive. You know, in the past, all of them were rear-wheel drive basically, except a few models, and they've done a fantastic job having it on this one. I would be so disappointed if I was really excited about using the power and I got to use the S power, the 400 plus horsepower, but when I got to the turns, you know, I felt the limitations. So I'm glad I got the upgraded Q4 system. This is something I absolutely recommend. And if you are considering getting a used Maserati Ghibli, or any used car for that matter, do not forget to pick up your Carly adapter. The link is in the description of this video. Click the link, use the discount code AdamDrivesLA for 15% off. This little adapter will help you figure out all the things that might be wrong with your Maserati Ghibli. And you know, with these cars, if you get into a bad one without diagnosing it, you're in trouble. These are expensive to fix. A lot of parts are difficult to find. You do want to pick up your Carly adapter. It's going to save you a massive headache. With all that said, that wraps up yet another video. Now, if you enjoyed this video and if it was beneficial to you in any way, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, because in the next couple of weeks I am going to post a video where I go over all of the numbers on this car, the financial numbers, how much I paid for my used Ghibli with 37,000 miles. It is an S model with the Q4 system. How much a full tank of gas costs, how much an oil change costs, what do tires cost on this car, everything. I will tell you all of what you need as a buyer's guide for a Maserati Ghibli. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next car.